start because, you know, it accounts for more than 80% of all online sales in China. It's kind of like eBay, Amazon and PayPal rolled into one, and it managed to pull off, you got to remember this, the biggest stock market flotation of all time. But the Chinese internet giant Alibaba is finding it increasingly tough at the top. Now, in a few hours' time, Alibaba reports it's going to tell us its latest numbers for the fourth quarter, that 3-month period, as it comes under growing pressure from disappointed investors. Now, let's take a look, because back in November, just weeks after its record-breaking flotation, Alibaba's founder, Jack Ma, warned of the danger of high expectations. We've heard that before. Since then, Alibaba's shares are down by a third, around $70 billion gone, wiped off the value of the company. So the question is, what's been going wrong?
Thank you, Aaron. Well, I'm joined by Mike Weston, Chief Executive of the data consultancy Profusion, to talk us through the issues that Alibaba is facing, some of the challenges. Thanks for being on the programme, Mike. First of all, the results today, good, bad or ugly?
Well, it depends where you start from. If you start from looking at the previous 7 quarters and how quickly Alibaba has grown, I don't think we're going to be pleased with what we see. At the same time, as we heard earlier on, you know, 80% of market share in China is not trivial, and it's quite difficult to continue growing at 50% compound annual growth at that sort of size.
Especially as well when mainland China is slowing down. The economy is slowing right now. That's its key market. But also some of the other challenges. What about this issue of counterfeit goods that are being sold on platforms such as Taobao or Toibo? It's a real problem for Alibaba, and it's a difficult one to fix.
Well, it looks like it's going to be a problem for them because the Chinese government are putting pressure on them to get it sorted out. That has 2 effects. The first is it's going to take money off their revenue figures because those sales will have to go away. The second is it's going to be expensive to try and police that. So trying to get that balance right is going to put further pressure on Alibaba as we go through.
Yeah, in fact, I think the Beijing, the Chinese government this year said Alibaba faces a credibility crisis. This is over the counterfeit issue or story. Can I ask you this? It's not only I mean, they talk about China, the big, large cities for Alibaba, they're saturated. You mentioned the Chinese slowdown, but there's more to it than that. Apparently, you know, a lot more people, and we're seeing this around the world, but a lot more people in China buying stuff off Alibaba from the mobile devices and getting the ad revenue from mobiles. That is the tricky part, isn't it?
Well, it is, because you get, there was the famous quote about you get digital cents for paper dollars from press to internet, and that seems to be happening again in terms of revenue from mobile at the moment. And that mobile ad revenues just don't stack up as quickly. So that's a challenge again for Alibaba.
And does this the current picture, you mentioned the 7 quarters of something like around 50% growth every time. It's probably not sustainable, of course. Does that make it even more important for Alibaba to get that working business model and get it out overseas, around the world? Well,
yes. Jack Ma said that he wants 50% of his revenues to come from outside of China, and at the moment it seems like it's nearer 5. They've not really been able to prove that they can transport what works so well in China outside of Chinese borders into the rest of the world. They're making some inroads in places like Russia, but not enough really to fuel that next stage of growth. So, you know, I wonder, you know, are we at a point where they're saying, well, you know, China will continue to grow a bit, but we're not going to be able to see 50% compound annual growth coming out of China anymore. We need to export. We need to get that right. We need to get the mobile revenue piece right. If we can do that, then yes, the future looks good. But there's still some questions to answer.
Yeah, all right. Absolutely. Mike Weston, thank you so much for coming in.